Hi everybody, it's Jama Malmy, and I'm going to show you how to make this etched wine glass with a cute Christmas tag. This is part of the creative design team's collaboration this week on perfect pandemic presents. I'm going to start out with a Cricut Design Space tutorial on how I made that design. First I typed out "I survived," and then I made a second text box for 2020 because I wanted them in different fonts. Then I went to this website called wordmark.it, which is one of my favorite go-to websites to look at my fonts. So this shows me all of the fonts that I have downloaded onto my computer at one glance, because sometimes they don't show up right when you're in Cricut Design Space. And so this is a really handy tool. So I clicked on all of the ones that I thought I might like, and then you can filter them to see just those three I chose. And I decided that I liked this one, so I went and searched it on Cricut Design Space and put it in, and there we go. So then I did the same thing for "I survived." First I tried the same font and I didn't like it for that, so I wanted to try a different font. So I went back to wordmark.it and typed in "I survived" to see what all of the fonts looked like for that. I chose a couple that I liked, and then I filtered those down, and then I wasn't sure which one I would like, so I decided to try out both of them with the design. So I put them both in there. I duplicated the text box for each of those, changed the font on "I survived," decided I didn't like that second one, so then I went and perfected this first design with these first two fonts. So for the wine glass, you have to size it down quite a bit. Because of the curved nature of the wine glass, you can't have a really big design, because then your vinyl stencil is not going to lay right. And when we get to that point in this tutorial, you'll see what I mean. It's hard for that vinyl to lay flat during this process, and you really don't want anything to seep under the vinyl in your stencil. So I added a text box, or just a box, a square here, and then I attached that together because I wanted my Cricut to cut that box, because that box is going to be my weeding box, and you'll see in a minute that will make sense. So I'm putting my vinyl, this is just a piece of scrap vinyl that I had. I don't use brown very often, and I had this left over. I cut it out on my Cricut on the vinyl setting, and then now I'm reverse weeding. This might seem a little counterintuitive, weeding out all of the design itself, but we're going to be using this as a stencil. So we want that square sticker to be there, and then we want to be able to put our etching cream in the middle. So I used some transfer tape. This is Cricut transfer tape, and that's my favorite to use. You can use it multiple times, and this is a piece that I used on another project, and you notice it wasn't the right size, and you'll see that doesn't matter in a moment. So first I'm going to clean the area of the wine glass that I'm using with some rubbing alcohol. And this is just a real cheap 96-cent wine glass from Walmart. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. Then I'm going to get right over it. I'm going to put down the center of my stencil first, and I'm going to kind of rub into all of those little grooves, because we don't want any air bubbles or anything. We need this to lay really flat so that the etching cream doesn't seep under any little nooks and crannies. Now, this is a temporary vinyl. This is Oracal 631 removable vinyl. I'm also going to test out the permanent vinyl. I wasn't sure which would work better. I didn't know if the permanent vinyl would peel off easily enough from the wine glass, so stay tuned to see which one ended up working the best and which one I'd recommend to use in the future. So this is the removable vinyl. You just have to really take your time to get all of those little air bubbles out. I think I cut this at 2 and maybe 2¼ inches. I forget. I'll link my file below, so you can use my exact file if you want. And I put a welded, the fonts as welded fonts in there as well, so that you can use them even if you don't have these particular fonts, if you like them. So then you'll see what size I actually did use. It's in the file. But you might even want to do something more simple, like a heart with some initials in it, or some other graphic of some sort, and keep it pretty small and kind of rounded if you can. So here, the removable vinyl, every time I would kind of get an air bubble up, it would sort of kind of creep back down from the top, and so I had to keep flattening it out. And you'll see I'll keep flattening it out with this paintbrush handle too. So the etching cream that I used, I will link it below. And I'm using a very cheapo paintbrush. You don't want to use your nice paintbrushes for this. And see, here I am flattening out those air bubbles again. And I'm just using a tiny bit, and I'm just going to keep going over the design, probably for about 3 minutes. I just kept moving it around on there. Now I'm going to move on to the permanent vinyl. So I'm doing the same process, and I'm putting down this permanent vinyl very carefully. And you can see here why I don't need a perfectly sized piece of transfer tape, because you're only really trying to get that center design down perfectly. And so did the same process. Sometimes it was a little bit harder to lift up the permanent vinyl from the glass to kind of reposition it back in place. But look here at the reveal, it peels off of the glass just fine. Now, to get the etching cream off of the glass when you're done, I took it to a sink and I ran it under the water and rubbed off of the cream with the brush that I was using. So I cleaned the brush and cleaned the glass at the same time. It came off very easily and very quickly. And here it is. It looks so cute and so perfect. So now I'm peeling off that temporary vinyl. And it looks pretty darn good too. But as I continue peeling it off, I notice this one little spot where the etching cream crept underneath the removable vinyl, and I didn't even notice until now. I think it still looks great. I'm still going to give this away. It's still a really cool gift, so don't freak out if you mess up a little bit. But in the end, I think the permanent vinyl is a better choice for this project, in my opinion and experience. So I wanted to make a cute little tag to go with it, and I pulled out a bunch of little pieces that might work from my bowl that I keep on my desk of odds and ends of paper and die cuts from my Cricut and metal dies. And so tags are really fun in that way, that there's really no rules and you can just kind of work with what you have. And so I had this glitter circle and this vellum stitched circle, and I decided to layer them on top and thought that the poinsettias would look pretty on top, and hey, why not add a little snowflake on top of the poinsettias? So I'm going to show you how I make these poinsettias look more realistic and give them more definition. My friend Julie, who is in our creative design team, is really a master at making sure that flowers have such beautiful dimension and adding these veins. And so I got the idea to add these veins from her and also Andrea Sherman. So look at that. You just, with taking your stylus tool, you can add those details, and it really adds a nice touch to your flowers. And it also helps the petals to curl up on their own, but we're going to add some more dimension by curling them with our fingers as well. So it didn't take much time just to add that extra little detail, and I think that it really goes a long way. With tags, you can have lots of detail or lots of dimension, because they're not going to be going in an envelope like a card would be. They're going to be on your tag, and so I think that the dimension looks really cool. I'm going to use liquid glue on the vellum to stick onto the glitter, because a regular tape adhesive isn't going to stick to glitter paper very well, and this Tombow glue sticks very nicely. I'm only going to put it behind where the poinsettia is going to be covering it though, because when you're using glue on vellum, you're going to see anything popping through. So I'm going to layer up these 2 poinsettias. These are from the Comfort and Joy Scrapbooking stamp and die set, and I just love these poinsettias. You could layer them up with several more layers if you want as well. And then I wanted to give the the snowflake a little extra dimension. Because the poinsettia has quite a bit of dimension, I wanted the snowflake to sit further up so that it didn't squish the dimension, if you will. So I put 2 layers of foam squares underneath that that glittery snowflake. I can't split that word out. So at this point, I would add a circle die cut to the back with the recipient's name and, the to and from information. I would do that separate and then add it afterwards. This is what happens when you're trying to finish something before the glue has dried. So I just added a little hole, and then I'm going to tie some twine through the tag as well. And I like the mix of this rustic twine with the dainty and elegant looking tag. And I think that this is such a nice touch to add to this wine glass. I filled the wine glass with candy, and the creative design team and I really wanted to showcase some ideas that you can do this year during the pandemic. For those of you who may normally bake and give goodies, we wanted to give you some ideas that you could give to teachers, neighbors, coworkers, and I think that this really elevates something that's store-bought and makes it more personalized and special. So I hope that you learned something from this video. If you enjoyed it, then please subscribe to my channel to see more and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. And be sure to check out Erin's video tomorrow where she will show her perfect pandemic present. Thanks so much for watching and have a wonderful day.